Hi, and welcome to Inside Creative Lives. I'm your host, Dallas Kiro. I'm a photographer, writer, and filmmaker. Today, I am so pleased to introduce my darling friend, Dr. Shazma Mithani. Shazma is a marvel of a human being. She is an emergency doctor for both adult and pediatric populations at 2 different hospitals. And in her free time, when she's not playing ultimate frisbee or tennis or traveling the world, Shazma finds the time to do an incredible amount of advocacy and educational work. I can't wait for you to learn from Shazma, to hear her journey of how she got from just working in the trenches of the emergency department to now being one of Canada's foremost medical experts.
In this world of misinformation and disinformation, it is so important for our voices to be there and to be heard to help continue to educate people on science and on medicine. I would say most people know me for my online content. So a lot of what I do now in the creative space is around public education on different healthcare topics. Lots of different videos targeted mostly to parents, the real world reporting of what I'm seeing in the healthcare system or in the emergency departments.
The only thing that works for most nosebleeds. No putting your head between your knees, no tilting your head back, no pinching up here, no cold compresses on your forehead or the back of your neck. Those things don't work.
I was definitely not in the social media space even 5 years ago. I had my, Instagram account where I was just like, it was friends and family. And then just before the pandemic started, it was a bit of a tumultuous time in politics in Alberta, where the contract of doctors got terminated quite abruptly by the then health minister. And I think it pushed a lot of people into public advocacy. And so that's kind of how initially I got into that space. Like, it was a month before the pandemic started and the contract got terminated. And it was a really uncertain time, I think, for a lot of physicians in particular. And so there were a group of us that kind of took to Twitter at the start to just highlight what kind of damage that was going to do to not just physicians, but really to patients in the healthcare system. And then literally a month later, the pandemic happened. And so that instability kind of became amplified. We didn't know how serious COVID was. I initially got kind of more engaged in Twitter just to learn what was happening. One of the things that's great, but also sometimes a hindrance when it comes to evidence and science and medicine, so it takes time to accumulate that data and then publish things, right? But we didn't have that time. We needed to know what was happening right then and there. And so that's why I was initially in that space, to learn and to understand what I could do to help my patients and protect me and my family. And then that evolved quite quickly to becoming a local and then national expert in the COVID space.
Hi everyone, welcome to Shift Perspectives. Today we're going to talk about how to properly swab yourself with an at-home COVID-19 rapid test. So here's the swab, and I'm going to swab my tonsils and the back of my throat with at least 4 sweeps back and forth.
For me, I wanted to keep people out of the ER. I wanted to be able to make sure that the emergency department was still open for the people that needed it, and that people that maybe didn't need the ER could either be at home or seek other ways of care that wasn't burdening the acute care system. And so I started making videos.
Hi everyone, today I want to talk about my top 5 tips and tricks to help keep you out of the ER as a parent. Number 1, it's okay for your child to have a fever for up to 3 to 5 days when they're sick, as long as there are no other concerning symptoms.
During the pandemic, there were things that I felt really strongly about. And so I would just start typing and started writing some opinion pieces and realized that, when it's something that I actually want to write about, the words come really easily. And I find it therapeutic, but I also find it really valuable in kind of having a different way to express thoughts and to advocate too. I started integrating lifestyle content maybe about 6 to 12 months after I kind of entered the visual education space on Instagram. Everything that I was doing up until that point in terms of education was all free labor, right? It was time that I was taking out of my day, away from work, away from my family, to create this content. And at the beginning, it was a 30-second reel at the beginning was taking me an hour, and my perfectionism has been dialed down, and I'm like, you know what, 2 takes and I'm done. Let's just get this out there.
Hey everyone, Dr. Shazma here. I know a lot of you like hearing my shift perspective, so I want to tell you about a recent pediatric ER shift that I had.
For me, it's really important not to monetize medical content. Like, I feel so strongly about accessible healthcare information that shouldn't have to be paid for. And so monetizing the information was like a hard no for me. Check out the caption for more information, and please be sure to follow for more helpful health tips for you and your entire family. A lot of the content that seems to be more engaging is me just being real with my followers, and the lifestyle piece really helped to do that too. When I entered kind of the lifestyle space, I was very clear about what my boundaries were going to be and what I was looking for in different brands. And so a lot of that included things like being a Canadian brand, being female-owned, being ethical, giving back to the community in some way. And another part of it that was like important was that it was not medicine adjacent in any way. I never want to be in a situation where I have to promote a product that I actually am not going to use, because I think there is a lot of trust in that relationship with my audience and me, and I want to make sure that that's maintained. My mom had 6 brothers, and all of us were around kind of the same vicinity, and so it would be like cousins and cousins, like 20 or 30 cousins every weekend at everybody's houses. And a lot of it was just creative play with my cousins, where we'd be like running around, playing games, doing like fake shows together, where we're like interviewing each other about like, you know, something that we'd seen on TV, and finding different ways to be creative. If you ask anybody who has immigrant parents whether art and creativity tended to be prioritized, they'd probably say no. My parents were very focused on education. A big part of it was for them that education gives opportunity to be self-sufficient and to have the life that they wanted for us. My mom and dad moved to Canada in the 1970s. So I recently realized that like my dad would technically be called a refugee, and I hadn't really framed it that way in my brain before. It's really interesting. They fled Africa in the 70s during the time of Idi Amin. And so 100%, like, they are the definition of refugees, right? They like fled at an unstable time where it was unsafe to be in their country, and they left and they came to Canada. And they left everything behind. All of their education, they were both professionals, was not transferable to the US or to Canada. I think that that's what really shaped their advice to my sister and I growing up, which is, you know, like, get good grades, focus on education, and like the world is your oyster after that. You can do whatever you want if you work hard but are well educated. I wasn't sure that I wanted to be a doctor. I knew that I wanted to probably do something in the biological sciences. At the time, I thought that I might want to be a researcher of some sort. And so in undergrad, I did pharmacology. And then did a couple of summers of research, and like pretty quickly realized that research just wasn't for me. It just pretty isolated. I really like to like being around people and engaging with people is it fills my cup. It's really important to me. And so that's when I started thinking about medicine. When I went through kind of my clerkship and different shadowing opportunities, I really liked everything. And I was like, oh, you know, when I did surgery, I'm like, oh, I want to be a surgeon. When I did obstetrics, I'm like, I want to be an obstetrician. Everything I did, I was like, oh, I really like this. And then I got to Emerge, and Emerge is everything, right? Emerge is all of those things, and you see it all the time, and it was the first thing that felt like home. When I feel stuck from a creative standpoint, or even just simply because I'm feeling so overwhelmed with all the things that I have to do, I find writing and planning things out really valuable. Like, let's say there's some content I have to deliver on. This is the plan for my content. These are the things that I need to hit. These are my speaking points. This is what the videos are going to look like. Here's the timeline of when they're going to get done. And then I like block things out in my calendar. And then even like block in that rest time too, of like saying like, this is my afternoon off. If I'm feeling down, whether it's from burnout or having a hard day at work or just feeling stuck or tired, there's nothing that makes me feel the way that exercise does. If I pick things that I love doing, it always makes me feel better and serves as a good reset for me. I think mental health care is something that we don't talk enough about. I think that now, especially as a millennial, it is like not something that was prioritized or even talked about in the time that we were growing up. It certainly is a lot more prominent now, and I'm so happy to see that because I think that talking about it and like talking about how I actually feel that everybody should have a psychologist from an early age even. When I was talking to my daughter the first time that she saw a psychologist, it was, okay, well, you have a doctor for your body, you have a doctor for your teeth, and you have a doctor for your feelings. And it's just like mom has a feelings doctor too. And it's just like something that helps keep our bodies healthy. And I think normalizing it from a young age, and even just like as an adult, talking about it in a way that it's just like, yeah, of course you should have a psychologist, because mental health and thoughts and stressors and burnout are like, they're things that occur for everybody. And I think that we should really try to make that normal and accessible for everybody. I think the biggest setback that I can think of is just like a time of very severe burnout for me. I didn't want to do anything other than just go to work, spend time with my family, and like do like nothing else. I didn't feel like myself. It took a lot of work to get out of that. A lot of work for me, a lot of work with my psychologist, a lot of work with, my friends and family to just like find a way out of it so that I could like live the life that I want to live. One of the big things that helped me feel like myself again was just like being okay taking a step back and taking a break. So a couple summers ago, like I took an entire month off, like as a leave of absence from work. My psychologist is like, you can delay this as much as you want, but like you need to take a step back and turn everything off. Don't post any content, don't answer emails. She didn't like say how long it should be, but an entire period of time to heal and recover. And I think that that period of time helped me understand that that is a big part of what I need to continue to be the person that I am now. Before I had kids, it was like very okay to just be go, go, go. Like be ambitious and like try to do as much as possible, say yes to everything to have, the potential opportunities. After coming back from parental leave and when my kids were still babies, it almost felt more important to like come back from that. I wanted to prove to myself, but also to like the world that I was more than just like a mom, and that I could still be a successful contributing member of society in my field. That momentum continued, but then in like the last year or two, it has become very apparent to me that like that is not going to work for what I want. I want to spend more time with my kids when they're at this age, when they still want to hang out with me. And so part of that has been me adjusting things and scaling back and pulling back and understanding that like maybe this is a phase in my career where I do scale back. And then when they're teenagers and like don't want to hang out with me anymore or doing all the activities, like maybe I scale back up on my career then. Like, I don't know. It would be nice to have some sort of roadmap to that instead of having to like try to figure it out ourselves all the time. Perfect. So recently I started a new podcast with my awesome co-host, Dr. Sheila Wijayasinghe. She's a family doctor in Toronto. And as you know, I'm an ER doctor here in Edmonton. And so we get to meld our two worlds together to create this podcast called the Doc Talk Podcast.
This week, we're so excited to talk about the focus of our week, which is perimenopause. So we will talk about what it is, what the symptoms are, early versus late perimenopause, what the differences are, what age it can start at. I certainly have those questions.
We're trying to make healthcare topics more accessible, anywhere from women's health or different women's health topics to things like diabetes, respiratory viruses. We recently had a sleep expert on as well, just to try to make topics more accessible and easy to understand to the Canadian population.
My job in the ER, I always kind of tell people this, is my job is to rule out anything bad or life-threatening. I may not have an answer for you at the end of the day, but what I can tell you is all these things that it isn't, because for me, it's what are the life-threatening things that I cannot miss. I need to make sure that I, manage this if it is one of these things, or get appropriate follow-up if it is one of these things. And what that means for me is I, see them for this discrete period of time, rule out those things, and then have, my colleagues like you in the community to kind of carry on that care afterwards once we've ruled out the life-threatening things.
We're such a good team.
Exactly.
There aren't very many Canadian podcasts featuring, first of all, women of color, but women or physicians in general. And so we are a bit unique in this space. And the idea is to use this pilot season as a foundation and then really trying to grow from there.
Please be sure to follow us on social media at The Doc Talk. And please send us your questions. We started out this episode with a question. We want to start off all of our episodes with questions from you. So please send us a DM and let us know what topics you'd like to hear about.
universal and accessible healthcare is such an important fundamental human right.
Public speaking is still pretty new to me, but it's been really a great experience. And one of the reasons that I want to get more into it is just because it reaches a different audience. If I could be like at a big TEDx conference or a TED conference talking about not even just like health education, but for me, like accessibility to public healthcare, which is like a cause that's so near and dear to my heart, that would be the ideal speaking scenario. And the hope from that would be that it would just really increase awareness so much more broadly to a much wider audience about the importance of health inequities and public health education and access.